human society cannot be rationally understood until it is seen for what it is. A series of farms where human farmers own human livestock. This human farming has been the most profitable and destructive occupation throughout history.
Ideas spread, they can't stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
We're not a bunch of underachievers. We're going to stand up and we're going to be human beings. We're going to get fired up about the real things, the things that matter. Creativity and the dynamic human spirit that refuses to submit.
Our nation is drifting dangerously from freedom to fascism. So I have to ask, is it time?
And yes, it is time. Welcome to the Big Plantation on FPRN Radio. I'm your host, Moses Flows. With me is Jamie Martin and Michael Heiss. How you guys doing?
Another awesome week in paradise, Moses.
Living La Vida Loca. Jamie?
Always great, Moses. Always great.
Right. And we have a fantastic show for you here tonight on Big Plantation for your holiday season to usher it in, and all your latest news and a lot of personal news as far as what we at the Big Plantation are working on. And I think we should start tonight and just ram right into it. It's important.
Ram it.
Ram it. We Are the Change has begun production. So if you are a liberty movement, quote unquote, conscious, awake personality within the alternative media and have been hit up by the gracious Michael Heiss, you can expect in the coming days a private YouTube video to be coming towards you, which will have the music for the song and a dummy track of vocals for you to sing along, and you'll have your copy of lyrics. And then you're just going to go ahead and record it into your webcam, save it, send us the file, and we are going to produce the We Are the Change video and change the world. And specifically, I just wanted to add, if anybody had been listening to Coke's News and followed over to FPR Radio and Big Plantation, we're trying to have a single, specific thing that we're going to be trying to drive home, some of us, within that video. And I'm not talking about lyrically. The lyrics are already what they are. But the idea of war is over if you want it, which is John Lennon. And drones. Bringing attention to the case for drones. And I'm pretty sure that every person, case against drones, rather, I'm pretty sure that every personality within this movement who's going to take part in this can all stand united behind being against innocent people being killed by robots in the sky. Certainly at this time of year. What do you guys think?
Certainly a no-brainer, man. I mean, that's part of the big message I think that drove us all to be libertarians is the message of peace, which applies not only to our personal lives but our foreign affairs. So it's an easy sell on trying to get that message in there for me.
Yeah, and that was one. I mean, there's plenty of things that we can all sit and scream about, but I think if there's one thing that should be driven home in a song that says We Are the Change, the number one thing I think that we need to change right now is the complacency in the American people for the death of innocent people in other countries. We are completely immune to it. It's actually being broadcast in our high-definition brain boxes in everybody's house, and so-called Christians who are in an uproar over the possibility of a Christian millionaire losing his potential source of income because he said a Christian view need to really look at themselves. Because if you're outraged about that and silent about the death of innocent people, there is absolutely nothing Christian about you.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know what, that whole issue got me really fired up as it was happening with the whole Duck Dynasty thing. I'll save that for a minute in a minute, though. There's a few things that this video and this song represents to me. You kind of just touched on what it means to like pushing out to people who may not have already be involved in the movement, one of the messages. But I think there's a very strong message within the movement that I personally want to see portrayed. And I think just the act, like regardless of the lyrics, just the act of the video will do it. And that is one of unity. We have thought about this video from the beginning of being like a lighthearted way of bringing everybody together, and people who aren't even necessarily fans of each other are going to be in this video. And I think that's just the strong message behind it for us as a movement. And something that I've been really driving home lately is that we really need to put on more of a united front as a liberty movement. We need to stop obviously everyone's going to have their different opinions and their difference of tactics, and we need to be accepting of that as well as proactive in how we could work together instead of looking at our differences.
I'd also like to just add real quick, within the liberty movement, obviously, there has been a lot of people who have abandoned, I don't want to say abandoned, but never were behind Rand Paul. But Rand Paul is in the Senate. And look, I'm the number one conspiracy theorist or, cynical person who says you can't change this system, we're too deep. But that being said, Rand Paul is under attack right now because of his words against the head of the NSA. And, not to say that what we're doing here, that's going to be a direct support of Rand Paul, but Rand Paul brought the drone conversation to the American people through his grandstanding. Rand.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's very important the role that Rand Paul and other people like Ted Cruz play in the Senate and others in Congress and House of Representatives and whatnot. We need to have those people there, not necessarily because they're going to change anything, but because they show evidence of a weight to the things that we say. It shows that they're not crazy because these people are in Senate and they have the same views as us. And it's important for them to be there because if they're not there, democratically, they're just going to change the narrative and call us all crazy and throw us in FEMA camps. And I don't see that happening while Rand Paul's still in Senate.
They're quite literally our representatives. Quite literally. Maybe you don't see eye to eye with the way they go about doing things, but like Jamie just said, if there's anyone who's representing our ideals on the political spectrum, it's Rand Paul. Who else do you really have?
I would give you that he's the best one that's in there probably, but or Justin Amash. I like
Amash too.
But and this is what I mean. I'm totally
he's in the House though, Mike. He don't have as much power as Rand does. And we all know why,
and that's why the controversy starts. The reason Rand Paul has that power is because of his last name and who his father is. And some of the stances that he's taken is a stark contrast to his father, and that's where the division is, because they feel that they've been betrayed by Rand Paul because he's not as stringent in the principles as Ron Paul. Now, as far as what you're saying, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like I was just saying, a message of unity. I'm out of the game. I'm not... unless Ron Paul runs again, which I don't see happening, there's no reason to believe that is happening. I'm not voting ever again. I'll get behind a candidate if I feel that their message, like if they are able to represent the principles pure enough for me to start the conversation with voters. That being said, the way I see it is to go about it through the democratic process and things like that. It's just a different target audience is the way that I see it. You know what I mean? I don't really have faith that it works, but you are targeting people who at least like to think of themselves as proactive in the political sphere or social issues or whatever. So it's just a different audience. You know what I mean? So the way I see it is we're all in the same fight. The people in the who are trying to get involved through the political process are picking up a spear and I'm picking up a sword. It doesn't really matter to me how you fight the fight. Just get in the fight. That's basically where I think.
I was furious with Rand Paul when he came out in support of Mitt Romney. Just coming out in support of Mitt Romney alone is unforgivable in my opinion. But I was also furious, not just because he's in support of Mitt Romney, but the timing of it. He did that when Texas was about to vote in the primary, and California was about to vote in the primary. Now, we all know what happened in California at all the universities. 8,000 plus at liberal schools, traditionally liberal schools. So, yeah, I was very upset by that. But now you got time to get over it a little bit. And now I start to see an evolution in Rand Paul that points purely to, yes, he's trying to maneuver himself politically. He believes that he can dance in the sewage. And as the fangs come out on the establishment, on Rand Paul, what I'm saying is we need to learn how to forgive, forget, and rally behind him, because they're going to try to destroy him. And they're trying to destroy him with ridiculous things. Right now, they tried the race card, which is always what they go after the Paul family with for whatever reason. When they're speaking a message of liberty, of freedom, and people uniting, somehow they correlate this with racism. But whatever. Right now, specifically, with your piece of shit Congress people like Peter King, very vocally saying that Rand Paul is not a real American, because he said that the head of the NSA needs to step down for lying to Congress.
The one thing that I would ask about people who really do get into the Rand Paul presidency viability is, you know what, he may very well be, in a political sense, more appealing to Republicans than Ron Paul because of his concessions. But I think the establishment understands the threat and doesn't really see the difference between him and Ron Paul in terms of that threat. So we've seen what happens when they perceive the threat. They've already maneuvered themselves to try and make is unfounded as it is. They've already maneuvered themselves to paint him as a racist. You know what I mean? He can't even have Jack Hunter on his friggin' staff anymore. So they've already made that move, which was the go-to move for Ron Paul. The newsletters and all that stuff, and they ignored them, which they certainly have the power to do again. So they ate their own already with Ron Paul. Ron Paul brought in a whole big chunk of new constituency, and they just shat on him, and they did it in front of everybody right there at the convention. So I just don't see the value in it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing about Hunter. He was outlining in Tampa and leading up to Tampa when the waters got rocky. He was outlining exactly what Rand would do, and it turns out what Rand did. Now, a lot of us were weary. Again, that move of coming out in support of Mitt Romney. I mean, people say that was him strategically placing himself in line. Bullshit. 4 years, a lot of change can happen. I can only correlate that with a threat. There is only a threat to the Paul family that sees that happening. A complete shutdown of that campaign after a money bomb.
Did you see what Doug Weed said?
Was that?
Well, did you see what Doug Weed said in the aftermath of all that?
Yeah, when he was interviewed by We Are Change, you mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, basically, I mean, I forget the exact words, but he was being interviewed by Sierra Adamson, and he basically came out and said that there was a threat to use a lot of money to shut him down, to shut Ron Paul down.
Absolutely. And I believe, you remember when the Paul helicopter got stopped? Like, this was a final fuck you when he was leaving Tampa in his personal helicopter detail or whatever the hell it was. He was stopped by the TSA.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember because I was in the Sundome, you were too, and we both saw Ron and Rand speak, and I remember how angry Rand was when he was talking about the TSA, and like I could see he was like personally angry. You know what I mean? Like I remember him putting his hands in the air like a prisoner and saying, "Now remember, when they have you put in this stance, like who was in?" You know, and just I could tell that he was personally angry. So I mean, you can't rule it out, but I think you also can't rule out that he was doing it as a political maneuver. And,
you know, you could go back and forth all day with because I personally do it, you know, introvertedly go, the apple don't fall that far from the tree, you know. He's got to be pulling a stunt. He's got to be. He's Ron Paul's son, for Christ's sake. But meanwhile, all that shit takes place. Well, my whole point in this is, if they're going to try to assassinate the character of Rand, I want you to think about what Jamie said. Basically, we have representatives as us, as people. They may not see 100% eye to eye with us, and you never will find a representative in that. And yet we can debate the value of the system at this point anyway. We could do that too. But this is people on the arena. They are our only representatives. So we should be standing behind them and being vocal about things that we should all be able to agree on.
I mean,
I think we can all agree on the drones.
I support the pedestal. You know what I mean? I support the podium, the ability to talk to people that you wouldn't otherwise reach. That's basically what I support out of that whole thing anymore. I see it as a really big bullhorn, and that's about it.
Now, do you think that we potentially, by leaning on our representatives the way we did with Syria, had that direct change take place? Do you think that we are the ones who stopped it?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know what all the backdoor deals were there, but plus you got to mention, look what else has happened out of that. The aftermath of that that's publicly talked about isn't, oh, well, the people were so against it. It's, well, Putin's a man of peace. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. And
they're picking that up a notch now, too. Because now as this whole, did you hear in the news, and I'm talking mainstream world here, they're miming aloud Obama pardoning Edward Snowden?
Yeah, I saw that they were considering offering him a deal if he turns in all of his leaks. I don't think but I think it's a joke. I think they know that he's not going to take that offer, and I don't think he's going to entertain that offer. But going back to Putin, I did see a pretty funny headline. This was on RT. That hopefully should break some of that idea of he's a man of peace. This guy literally said, and I quote, "I envy Barack Obama because he can spy on everybody the way he is with the NSA and get away with it."
You can't see how he's being facetious, though? I mean, this is all a fucking play. This is a play going on, all right? We are being trained and groomed to accept Putin as some sort of moral guide, that's the way a leader's supposed to. We are being groomed for that. And I was watching the news today, CNN, MSNBC, whatever it was. I flip around. And just to get a temperature take. And you know what the temperature was saying? That Putin has stepped out of character and is actually considering pardoning his former political enemy who is in a Russian prison right now. And I think that he has pardoned him. And why are you telling that story, MSNBC? Why? So that we know that he has pardoned someone. Meanwhile, I know the girl from Pussy Riot is digging a hole 23 hours a day and probably still not eating.
They are to be released. I don't know if they've been released now or not, but I saw an article the other day about how they are to be released.
Yeah, well, they did about 2 years of hard time for a freedom of speech issue. I don't know what they have over there in Russia as far as freedom of speech, but for us to mime aloud in this country that Putin might not be a bad guy because he finally released somebody who was a political enemy doing hard time. A political enemy.
Well, yeah, and that goes. I mean, that goes both ways. You know, look at Bradley Manning. Forgive me, but I refuse to call him Chelsea. I'm sorry, but but look at Bradley Manning. You know, same thing. Free First Amendment issue. Clearly a whistleblower. In jail probably forever. You know, like.
Yeah. What can you do?
It's just the pot calling the kettle black. You know.
Well, what would Snowden do right now? I don't think that Snowden, like you said, would ever take a deal. He's not going to trust this government.
He's not coming back. So that's the way. I mean, he left his family and figured they might kill him, so he left.
My conspiracy side of the brain, though, again, says to me, why are they telling us about Snowden? Why were we told about Snowden? Okay? There's whistleblowers all over the fucking place for 9/11.
But because Snowden was put on, that came from underneath, I think, because it went. Where did it go to first? It went to Guardian. It went to Glenn Greenwald and things like that. Glenn Greenwald is not being beholden to the mainstream media. You know what I mean? He's talking about making his own alternative media. And now the other people who have documents of Snowden are being raided. So I don't think that is a charade. And not to mention, I think that they would offer him a deal because what did we just hear a week ago? Only 1% of what he took has been revealed. They're scared out of their minds. They don't want that to happen. They don't want all of that to get out.
Let me tell you something. Well,
what, Jamie?
with the state that this country is in, hypnotic-wise, do you really think they're scared of something that Snowden's going to say?
Well, because I honestly do. Because we just saw it with Brazil. Brazil is no longer going to be doing business with Boeing because Boeing was beholden to the NSA. This is costing the government billions of dollars because people don't want these products that are and these companies. They don't want to deal with them if they know that they're having the NSA backdoors in there and stuff like that. So that's just one aspect.
The last thing I think the government cares about is if they got to spend money. I mean, I think they try to find ways to spend money. But what I'm saying is,
we're talking about major corporations. We're talking about profit. You know what I mean? Like, so this isn't just printed up money from the Pentagon to go bomb another country.
Well, what I'm saying here is if they can blatantly put across in their own propaganda that we're murdering innocent people through drone warfare and there's not so much as a blip with resonating with these people, why would they be concerned if there's more information coming from Snowden when these people, I'm talking about my fellow man, are just completely zombified walking through life while complacent with murder?
I mean, I don't know how legitimate the concern is with this with the Department of Defense, but I do remember reading that an official, I believe he was unnamed, came forward to the Daily Caller, said, what's floating around is dangerous because Snowden stole literally everything. And apparently he has threatened, he said, 2 other people have the triple encryption. If anything happens to me or my family, it's getting released, all of it. So, I mean,
it's leverage.
Well, yeah, he's definitely using it as leverage. I mean, I can see that it's clear that he's using his information as leverage because only a little bit of the information has been released. And a lot of that was really damning stuff. I mean, it was, the NSA's operations internationally, like in economic warfare, essentially. You got, trade deals that were being listened in on by the U.S., and people are pissed. I mean, there's international courts that are coming up about it.
Absolutely. It definitely probably amplified the anti-American sentiment overseas right now, at least for us to hear, because it was already there. But now we're hearing it. And that's what I think that's my point on this, is that I feel like they want us to know this now.
There seems like they're definitely taking advantage of it. I'll give you that. I really think that Russia and the United States the mainstream media in the United States is taking advantage of Putin's place and being the peacekeeper and the guy who granted refuge to Snowden immediately after all of this stuff, and then the following with America and NATO funding the missile shield in Europe and Russia threatening to nuke Europe over it, and there's all kinds of gear up in the southeastern seas or southwestern seas around Asia and whatnot. Like there's a clear a move towards World War III that's going on, and I think we're just seeing a lot of fallout everywhere. And I think some of it's intentional, some of it's unintentional, and it's just such a muddy mess that it's really hard to tell.
Do you think that maybe there's a possibility that just like everything else has become completely scripted in our understanding of this world, that even war at this point is agreed upon and scripted out almost like a Sandy Hook event?
It very well could be, but I mean, I don't think that at our level of our lives we're ever going to know whether that be true or not true.
I would say definitely, yeah. I mean, look at I think a perfect example would be Zbigniew Brzezinski in his book, The Grand Chessboard. He wrote that back before 9/11 ever happened, and he outlined where the power centers were going to be interested in taking in Eurasia and stuff like that. for reasons of oil, and to not only just that, but so that it would prevent Russia from ever becoming a superpower to ever be able to rival us. And lo and behold, just a few years later, there's literally a map in his book that showed these areas, and then lo and behold, that exact area is where we're invading, a few years later. So I would say definitely, yeah, it's orchestrated and planned on where they want to go to war, and we knew that. I mean, they orchestrate everything they do. The Patriot Act was written well before 9/11, all that kind of stuff.
So let me ask you a question. If that's the case, if we see the same playbook being played constantly, right? We can agree. You break the matrix. You could see. You start to look like a prophet. It's like you can tell what they're going to do. But it's only because you've read their playbook and they just keep playing the same plays. So that being said, if they use a certain formula to create an uprising in a country via the CIA operating through Al-Qaeda, overthrowing the government in Syria, and if they do this over every country, the powers that be that are trying to usher in the new world order, then couldn't it be logically deduced that they would attempt that same maneuver on the American people?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think I think that we as Americans, and because of the alternative media that we have that's becoming more and more prevalent here, is that we have the ability to be aware of it. Just the fact that you saying that and you putting that out there and putting that in the public lexicon, that makes the impact of them doing that different.
Right. Well, I think more people need to recognize this because I haven't heard anyone else say it. All right. I think more people need to recognize that correlation.
Well, I've heard people say it. In fact, I remember one of the last things that Keith was saying before he left the show was that he sees that happening, and the way that he sees it happening is through the method that Albert Pike talked about, World War III. So it kind of all ties together here with what Jamie's talking about and what you're talking about, because Albert Pike basically said that the idea would be to unleash the atheists and I think the Christians against each other, and the atheists and the nihilists and all these people against each other, and cause a huge rift through that. And I would say we definitely see that. And I don't mean to make Christians out to be like the cause, but Christianity is used as the centerpiece of the division, whether it's from the atheists, whether it's from homosexuals and stuff like that. They are used. They have. They're being picked at constantly, and it's causing a huge division. Not to say that they're the cause, like it's Christians' fault, but
you can enhance what Albert Pike said by laying it against what Marx wrote, because what you have happening in our country and our world is a march towards Marxism and a one-world order.
And in a lot of ways, Marx was an unabashed atheist, and this is something that atheists don't want to acknowledge or would reject, but he literally hated God, said he wanted to kill God, and
but by saying that, doesn't that mean you admit there's a God? How do you hate something that you don't believe exists?
Well, I think he meant the idea, you know what I mean? Because I think that is why this whole big thing is going on against Christians. Because if you are a Christian, a real Christian, and we'll talk more about what that means in relation to the Duck Dynasty thing, but if you are a real Christian, if you really have faith in God and you really practice it, then you are going to put that faith over your obedience to the state. And that is, and when you consider that 70% of this country identifies themselves as Christians, that's a big, big problem for a police state. You're quoting Karl Marx right now. This is how he outlined it. He said, in order to have this perfect Marxist socialist society, you would need to first destroy independent religions, okay, and then usher in the one religion. And my argument is, and I think yours is too, I think everybody could start to see this, that atheism is that cult that they're going to use. That's what's going to be the state religion. And they're not necessarily all religious, but we're coming up against the break. I'm loving this conversation. We're really coming to some big conclusions here, but we will finish it here on the other side of the Big Plantation.
Big Plantation, FPRN. Moses Moon, David Warren. Bye-bye.
Well, the end times are approaching just like storm clouds down the line. But it started raining early.
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Due to the recent revelations that in order to fight terrorism, the NSA has been using a secret court order to spy on every single Verizon and AT&T customer, Americans have become outraged and concerned about their rights to privacy. But along with that concern comes a feeling of hopelessness. I mean, what can we do? Vote in new leaders? Well, the problem is that during an election, each candidate pretends to not be an asshole. Then when they get the job, they reveal that they've actually been a complete asshole this entire time. No, elections are of no use. The only way to fight back against our country's excessive wiretapping and data mining is to make it irrelevant. That's why we're launching Operation Everyone Talk Like a Terrorist all the time. If we all openly discuss terrorist plots in each of our phone conversations, then eavesdropping on those phone conversations becomes pointless. It's simple. We just need to work it into our daily vernacular. For example, instead of saying, "I love you," you could describe a terror attack. The larger the scale, the more you love the person.
Hi, Mom. I just got out of school. Can you pick me up?
I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'm gonna use a truck bomb to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge.
I'm mailing anthrax to Piers to Morgan.
Or nonsense about God's will being great could mean affirmative.
Hey, man, they have a 7:30 show. Do you think you can make it in time?
God is merciful and his love is unchanging. Did you already get me a ticket?
And those are just a few examples. You can make up your own. Have fun with it. But it's time for us to stand up and protect our rights. Because those assholes aren't going to.
Do you have a group or organization founded on the principles of personal liberty, health freedom, or accountable government? We invite you to check out Same Side Entertainment. Get connected with leaders in the liberty movement like Tom Woods, Kevin Gutzman, Jack Hunter, Robert Scott Bell, Michael Scheuer, and many more. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website at www.samesideentertainment.com. Again, that's www.samesideentertainment.com. Same Side Entertainment, connecting you with the education and resources you need.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Irene. I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom. I'm a graphic designer,
College freshman, stay-at-home mom with a full-time job,
scholar on social policy, and a barista.
And I'm just like you.
I'm an Obama supporter.
I support President Obama.
But the president needs your help.
Our president can't launch into another war without you. And remember, we promise to support him no matter what.
Together, we can do it.
That's why we here at the Americans for Whatever Barack Obama Wants, Did You Know He's Friends with Jay-Z, have launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund World War III.
And America is dead-ass broke, so our goal is to raise $1.6 trillion on behalf of the U.S. government.
That's where you come in.
Even a small donation would make all the difference.
When I first saw the president speak in 2008, in a YouTube clip posted to my Facebook page, I knew he was going to be right all the time. So I support World War III and IV and any moon war the president may want to start.
I mean, there is no way that he or the cabal of corporate interests, spy agencies, and shadow bankers that tell him what to do would ever mislead us. A $25 donation will get you a piece of rubble from a war-torn Middle Eastern country kissed by Senator Lindsey Graham.
A $100 donation gets you a day pass to leave your local refugee camp.
You'll probably end up in a refugee camp, but it'll have free Wi-Fi.
So please, help us reach our goal of $1.6 trillion so we can make World War III a reality. Why? Because Obama.
Because Obama.
To think something so small could control you.
And everything you do. When your life and all you love
are on the line. The RFID chip is always with you, threatening your privacy, causing severe risk to your health and personal safety, and killing you if you do not obey rogue government demands.
Because I want to increase my risk of cancer.
Because I want to live in a cash-free society.
Because now, the government is looking out for us.
Because I have the mark of the beast, but it doesn't have me.
Ask your doctor how to get your chip implanted today.
Because we want to track your every move.
In 1997, a high school shooting was stopped by a vice principal with a gun. In 1998, a middle school shooting was ended by a neighbor with a gun. In 2002, a terrorist attack was stopped by a school guard and a teacher with a gun. After September 11th, pilots began carrying guns to protect their passengers. Let's give our schools and teachers the same option. Sign the petition at defendschools.com.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.
It's beginning to look a lot like Hitler everywhere you go. Gestapo at the airports, stripping you down to your shorts, but don't laugh or they'll haul you away. A prostate exam from an oversized hand is the wish of the TSA.
Always a winter wonderland over here at FPRN. Producer, that is awesome. Thank you for that. That was pretty good. Before we continue our talk, Moses, I just want to real quick. One of the things that we're pushing forward here with the show is we finally got around to putting out our first merch designs, and we're really excited about them. They're first two of many designs that we plan on putting out for our Disobey lines of shirts. So if you go on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, we're pushing them through there. The first one is a picture of the Shepherd Fairy filter over Martin Luther King's face saying Disobey. Kind of a self-explanatory message there, I would hope. And then another one is, of course, a more modern-day peace activist, and that's Adam Kokesh with his act of civil disobedience in Freedom Plaza, with the shotgun. And all the proceeds of that will be helping us to make this a more complete and full and well-equipped alternative social media outlet. But with the Adam Kokesh shirts, we will be giving a portion of the proceeds to him. So please go ahead and check out facebook.com/thebigplantation or follow us at Big Plantation on Twitter, which we'll get into social media later. But continuing this conversation, I think we were breaking some pretty important ground, Moses, and you're absolutely right. They have to break up the independent religions because, and not just Christianity, but all independent religions and major religions that would make people who follow them not beholden to the state in the way that figures like Jesus was. Now, I hate to harp on, Jesus, but I'll be the first to admit that I am not very well versed in Islam and Muhammad or whatever he did. So, but anyway, we see this already happen. I mean, at least to the Western world, Islam is totally discredited. It's totally destroyed. Their image is destroyed. Their country is destroyed. So they've already succeeded there, and that's a pretty strategic place for them to have done something like that because of the, the different like oil and all the resources that they have there.
Well, it's a continuation of the Persian Empire, I guess you can say. It morphed into this, I guess you'd call it the Islamic Empire, which Turkey is a secular progressive, much more on par with America now, which you can bet that when this order is put in, Turkey gets a nice seat at the table for playing ball. And they have manipulated, you're absolutely right, as far as Islam is concerned, they used those radical elements of Islam, and they fed it like a monster.
Now, I really want to dig into this. I think this is very important. And Jamie, I want to hear some of your take on this too. How is something like that possible? You know what I mean? Like, how could they what mechanisms are in place that can make something like that happen? Now, I mean, we're best going to be able to relate it to well, yeah, Al-Qaeda, but I'm saying all right, and we know what they did with Al-Qaeda, but we're talking about here at home. With Al-Qaeda, they created Al-Qaeda. That's not an opinion, that is a fact. Hillary Clinton has said in no uncertain terms that is true on live television. It's a admitted fact. You can look it up that Bin Laden himself was a CIA informant for a very, very long time. But I mean, how could they? All right, if what we are seeing here at home with the divisions between Christianity and homosexuals and Christianity and atheists and Christianity and trying to take God out of schools and stuff like that and all this push against Christianity, if that is in fact the makings of a coup here, a social coup from the elite class, how is something like that possible? How would you guys posit that? Or Jamie, do you think that is even what the case is?
Oh, that's definitely what the case is, and I can tell you exactly how they do it here at home, and it's through a really simple mechanism. It's called 501c3. They make these organizations file themselves under nonprofits, and then they are no longer allowed to speak certain parts of their scripture, and they're handed other parts of their scripture to speak. A lot of them being Romans 13 and give on to Caesar what is Caesar, and those kind of items. And that's a lot of what you see here. And then obviously the mainstream, like there's media that does it. The sitcoms demonize Christianity. They make Christians out to be bigots. They overpopularize the whole movement with the Western Baptist Church or Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah.
And to add to what you're saying, that's exactly a mirror. What you're saying right there is a mirror for what I'm saying with what they did with Al-Qaeda. They use their ways. What they did, in my opinion, with Christianity, on top of what you're saying, because that's absolutely right, by forcing them to say these things. But you pointed out to one of my favorite Jesus quotes, which is "Give unto Caesar."
Yeah, and that's something I've harped on. And Jamie, another aspect of the 501(c), I always don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but another aspect of that, I was actually having this conversation with my father the other day. And did you know that 501(c) makes it so that churches and church organizations cannot lobby?
Yeah, they can't lobby at all. That's the whole purpose.
I didn't know that because I was asking the question, why is it that we can be a country 70% of Christians and yet Ron Paul was a kook, quote unquote? You know what I mean? Exactly. And then that could be a big reason why churches had their hands cuffed. At least the church groups and stuff like that had their hands cuffed and could not lobby for peace.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's even pastors in the South, especially in the South, that have been arrested for supporting certain candidates.
Now, but as a criticism still, though, I would say that they're doing a damn good job of subverting Christianity just by the fact that these people didn't go out as individuals or didn't individually organize and say, you know what, these friggin' wars are an abomination. We are going to do it regardless of if the church is going to back us or not. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, because you have a multi-headed dragon you're fighting here. It's very sophisticated, and it's the best way to look at it is this. Right now, when the children are molested by a priest, it's Christianity that bears that brunt. But you know where that is coming from is nowhere derived from Christianity. So that
and that's across the board. That is the logic that they pervert across the board. You know, it's guns that killed those kids at school, not Adam Lanza, which again a whole different rabbit hole of the official story of that. But then when drones kill kids in these other places and all these innocent people, well that's collateral damage. Oh well, at least our boys are safe. That's not drones. You know what I mean? Let's do something about drones. So it's a completely double standard that is used for anything that helps them centralize their power and divide us.
The drone thing really blows my mind because it's crazy. If you speak this drone shit to people, Christians, supposed Christians, you speak this to them, they look at you with a blank face and change the subject. They don't want to think about it. But people have to start thinking about it because if they are truly Christian, then they need to know that by knowing it's happening, you're giving complacency to you. You don't speak out against it. This government represents you. Those people overseas who are completely mortified, or they think of America. They don't think, okay, they have a bad rogue government right now. No, America has flying machines that killed my whole family at a wedding. That's what it is. So
and you know what? I actually have a story that happened this week. This is why I want to get into the whole Duck Dynasty thing. And you saw this happen. And another one of our hosts here on FPRN, who has an awesome show, Silence is Compliance, Anthony Antonello, he helped me out with this. Is as the day went on and this conversation was exploding. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at this Facebook page in 12 hours, have 500,000 likes in support of this guy and stuff like this. I became very angry. I became very angry that this non-issue, this complete and total non-issue that the box was telling everybody to do was garnering such coalescence in the Christian community, which on one hand is good. You know what I mean? It's good that they come together, but why this? You know what I mean? Why this? So I took to I put the call out to try and get the Liberty Movement behind me and say, you know what? If this page has reached 1 million likes in 24 hours, just doing the math, that means there's got to be like 10,000 people on these pages at any one given point. This is a no-brainer. We need to go to these pages and start injecting our conversation into this national conversation and try and pull some people out, wake some people up. And to be honest with you, Moses, I know you know about my frustrations. I'm very frustrated at the lack of support that I was able to get, but that's another story. So eventually I took to the radio waves. I took to the radio waves, and I called into a couple radio shows to say, I appreciate the conversation that's going on right now. And Anthony Antonello recorded this. I should be getting the video here soon enough. But to say, I find it very disturbing that Christians will come together to save their beloved television show, but then when their own, I mean, I saw a story about just within the past week, 50 Christians were rounded up by Syrian rebels who were funded by a government that was elected by a country of 70% Christians. Rounded up 50 Christians and burnt them to death. They had a Christian barbecue, and there's nothing on that. I was cut off, obviously, but I that enraged me. That I was furious about that.
You have a very sophisticated form of MK Ultra on a mass scale. We have high definition mind control boxes in every living room in America. We have a social setup and makeup that says wake up, go to work, go home, consume, watch television, put yourself in a trance. And I tell you this, the children that are growing up now, okay, I'm old enough to remember black and white TV. It's probably because my family was poor, but we had black and white TV. Okay, I remember having to use antenna and shit in New York in the late 80s. All right? We are not able to be completely put into this digital hypnosis.
Do you remember?
And I urge people to read or listen to the words of David Icke. Okay? David Icke is a brilliant, brilliant thinker. You do not need to subscribe to all of the words he uses. But don't get hung up on words, because the man is telling you straight up what is taking place.
I agree with you, but we're going to go to the phones real quick. I'm pretty sure we have a caller. If you could put him through. Caller, how's it going? Who? Teddy. We got Teddy on the line. Teddy, how's it going?
Teddy?
Teddy.
Hey, Teddy, what's good, man? You're on live with Big Plantation on FPRN. How you feel?
All right, looks like we lost him. But yeah, David Icke. I totally agree with you. And one thing that I feel like I've been undergoing a personal evolution lately. And I think, Moses, you're one of the big witnesses of it, is he is a philosopher. And that's what drew me to Ron Paul, because he was not a politician, he was a philosopher. And that's what I think is the centerpiece of all of this. Our message, anything, is having a sound, reasoned philosophy that cannot be argued. And David Icke has a lot of that. It's just, it gets a little bit nuts when you get into the reptilian thing, and that's unfortunately what he's become infamous for. He
scaled that back, no pun intended. He scaled back his references to scaled creatures. But he'll say now, I can't say this because instead I'm used as a real quick blip, a sound clip that's just, and then the reptilian race, blah, blah, and that's it. And then that's the reptilian guy. There's so much brilliance in what this man said.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, if you get harping on the reptilian thing, you're just harping on a word instead of the common sense, which is that you really don't think that these people believe that their bloodline makes them better than you. Those that are at the highest level, this shit is passed down. Where do you get royal family from? How do you get a preordained life? How does that happen? Well, they keep it in the family, the Rockefellers, and they are continuing a tradition. So you don't have to believe it. They'll still be in power over you. And that's all David Icke says. But then he goes into breaking down how they feed off of the negative energy. Everything is about keeping you negative.
And I just want to put out there that you don't have to take that in a literal sense. You know what I mean? You really don't have to take that as like, oh, there's these interdimensional things that like, oh, what am I going to have for dinner today? How about some malice? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to take it in that kind of sense. But it really does make kind of sense when you think about, oh man, now I'm forgetting the word. Like the subatomic level of science.
Right, but you don't have to go there. Yeah, molecular. No, it's all about dimensions.
Molecules are made up of atoms, but
and atoms are not actually,
like The Secret and the Celestine prophecy and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you don't even need to go to that world with people, because if you're not spiritually, philosophically enlightened enough to hear these kind of words, then you're not ready to hear David Icke's words, certainly, So therefore, keep it real simple, because the same shit is being said over and over again by this. There is negative and there is positive. You can't deny when you see negative shit happening. Negative shit is happening. They continuously perpetrate negative shit. So the only way to stop the negative shit is with positive. So how do you break down what they're doing for the people that are complacent to it? Because they are empowered by the complacency of the sleeping American people. They continue to be able to do what they're doing because you're not awake to it. Okay? And that's why, Antonello's show, Silence is Complacency. What does that mean? If you don't say anything, you're okay with it.
And I think this breaks down to a fundamental reason of why I think they can use and chose religion to as the main mechanism of breaking down society. Because what you just what makes people apathetic? What makes people like that? They have faith in the government. They have faith that it's there for their good. They have faith that it's working towards their interest. That the people that we elect would never turn on us. And I'm not saying this is a way to say, religion X, Y, or Z is false and not true. But again, it's a perversion, like you said. So people are using that base tenet of religion, the faith in the religion, to turn it into faith in the state. You know what I mean? So I think that is why, because faith can be used to empower them. Faith can be used because they're subverting the faith of religions to increase the faith in themselves.
That famous quote, I forget what movie it is. I used it in a track one time. It was Kevin Spacey. He said the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. And I think you can apply that to this. And that same talk that we're talking about, which is the atheism rise up, the secular progressive oomph degree that's happening in this country, where you can't speak anymore. You no longer have freedom of speech. Because if you can't speak on your beliefs, then you don't have freedom of speech. Okay, and that's the true tale of the tape. If we're going to be so concerned about stepping on everybody's toes, then you can't say anything. So you either have freedom of speech or you don't. There's no gray area, because when you have the gray area, it fades to black. And that's where you're at right now. They are fading it to black. You are dimming the light on anybody having originality, creativity, nothing, because it's going to piss somebody off and everybody's going to be happy.
They're making it socially
and that's
unacceptable.
By design. They want that. This is Marx. That's what Marx said. All right? So they want you to rally behind the secular progressive message. They want you behind the atheist point of view. They want you to have complete lack of
but that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's necessarily that they want you to be an atheist. They just want you to be not Christian. They just want you know what I mean? Because that is the major block here of the population. So if they can subvert that faith, what's one way to subvert it? They're homophobes. They believe in a sky myth. You know what I mean?
Well, they use all of these terms. Okay, first off, you got to look at it like this. They're the ones carving the culture. They're the ones telling people what's okay and what's not. They beat it into your head. They've changed what reality is, okay? Reality vision. That changed everybody's view of what they were supposed to do. And now they get talking points or their cues from this new society that they've created. And in that society, you're not allowed to say things that would hurt another person. You're not supposed to express certain beliefs on the way things are supposed to be. These are the first steps towards fascism. It's happened over and over again. So if you don't stand up for one person's right to say whatever the fuck they want, you're going to lose your right to say anything.
And I want to drive home that this is relevant to everybody. You know what I mean? I consider myself non-denominational. I'm more and more philosophically arriving to the point where I think that there is a creator or a designer, but I wouldn't consider myself a part of any specific religion. Now, Moses, you are a Christian, and Jamie has been open about his beliefs as a pagan. But my point in saying that is that I'm saying this purely from the stance of philosophic reasoning and as well as historical evidence and what we know about the nature of these people. This is relevant to regardless of what your beliefs. Well, I'm not saying this because I'm anti-atheist or I'm pro-Christian. I'm saying that's because all of our freedom is at stake here, and this seems to be what the pattern is.
Right, and that's all you can really do, right? That's what we've self-diagnosed a little earlier in the conversation, which is that by calling this shit out, you can potentially then break that fourth wall, right? You can get somebody to go, holy shit, you're right. What life are you living now as opposed to 5 years ago? It's changed. This is different, all right? And this ain't to say, oh, Obama did this. Obama's the reason for this shit. No, Obama's the fall guy. He was prepared well beforehand. Bush set the foundation. In fact, Clinton was laying foundation. Clinton was bombing countries without Congress approval.
I mean, Clinton is responsible for what China has become in our economy.
Absolutely. They were moving the pieces on this chessboard back in 1917. Okay? You're telling me, just pull away the veil for a second. Stop living in the fucking narrative. And this is to people who are sleeping. You just stop living the narrative for 1 second and use common sense. Step back, pull yourself back, and look where they don't want you to look. Now they don't want you to look at direct history. They change history books. They just keep you so dumb. You have a supercomputer in your fucking hand, and you use it, to find out what Kim Kardashian's doing, instead of, you could be a fucking doctor on the spot. You have all the information in the world. So how do you stop people then from learning this kind of shit? Because you control them 100% in their perspective of what their existence is in all facets of this. You tell them they have to work this way and they have to work that way, or this is what they should spend their money on. Black Friday is now Great Thursday. There is no Thanksgiving. Christmas will 100% be pulled. The Christianity is going to be pulled out of Christmas. And you see this happening all over the place. Now, you could forget any of the positive things about Christianity that you would love to display on that day, because you can't say it anymore. You won't be able to. Now, it looks like it's handcrafted. If you stand back and look, how could it be coincidence that you had all these pieces lined up like this? This is planned way, way before now. They've tried this time and time again throughout history. They failed every time. But now they have a super grid of technology. And they think they can do it. They think they can pull this off. And that reference I was making in 1917 with the passing, Woodrow Wilson said that when he signed in the Federal Reserve, he had signed the death certificate of his country. That was a quote from Woodrow Wilson. So how many years later, and you have the first ever crash? Now, wouldn't common sense say, stand back, not using any of the fucking talking points, just go, well, clearly the bank you put in place did that.
Well, we're coming up against the break here, and when we get back, I think we're going to get more into the whole pulling the Christian out of Christmas. And we'll see you on the other side of the break, guys.
Big Plantation FPRN Radio. Been locked into it.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy.
Oh God, please help me. He's got a knife.
You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on the line for the next available emergency operator. You have reached the 911 emergency service. All operators are busy. Please stay on.
911 operator, what's your emergency, please? Hello? Hello?
Last year in the United States, thousands and thousands of 911 calls went unanswered. And if you call from a cell phone, there's no way to pinpoint where you are. Yet politicians like Dianne Feinstein call for more gun control. We have one question. Why do these politicians have armed bodyguards? Can't they just call 911?
Now I'm covered.
Now for the first time, you can be covered. If you've been waiting to be covered in mandates, regulations, and new fees, the time is finally here. Sort of. So make some coffee.
I'm covered.
Approach life with reckless abandon. Kick your feet up. I'm covered. Because you're going to be in the waiting room for quite a while. But don't you worry your pretty little head off. First of all, it wouldn't be covered.
We're covered.
No, I said it would not be covered.
Now we're covered.
No, that's not... Yeah, I don't think you understood what I meant by covered earlier. It was a little bit ironic. Healthcare.gov is not responsible for fulfilling any of the expectations, mandates, legal requirements, hopes, or dreams of any users. Results may vary. Consult your Obamacare-approved doctor or pharmacist to find out if Obamacare is right for you. Current waiting lists to have your doctor chosen for you are unavailable and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Obamacare may cause wait times, a decline in healthcare quality, money loss, political activism, anger, despair, hopelessness, frustration, European envy, dependence, and nausea. If you discover that your premiums have gone up as a result of Obamacare, please note that the program is working as intended and refrain from complaining. Call your doctor if you experience anxiety for longer than 4 hours. If you wish to opt out of Obamacare for any reason, please start a multi-million-dollar business, join a union, or run for Congress.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Irene.
I'm Lisa.
My name is Tom.
I'm a graphic designer.
College freshman.
Stay-at-home mom with a full-time job.
Scholar on social policy and a barista.
And I'm just like you.
I'm an Obama supporter.
I support President Obama.
But the president needs your help.
Our president can't launch into another war without you. And remember, we promise to support him no matter what.
Together, we can do it.
That's why we here at the Americans for Whatever Barack Obama Wants, Did You Know He's Friends with Jay-Z, have launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund World War III.
And America is dead-ass broke, so our goal is to raise $1.6 trillion on behalf of the U.S. government.
That's where you come in.
Even a small donation would make all the difference.
When I first saw the president speak in 2008, in a YouTube clip posted to my Facebook page, I knew he was going to be right all the time. So I support World War III and IV and any moon war the president may want to start.
I mean, there is no way that he or the cabal of corporate interests, spy agencies, and shadow bankers that tell him what to do would ever mislead us. A $25 donation will get you a piece of rubble from a war-torn Middle Eastern country kissed by Senator Lindsey Graham.
A $100 donation gets you a day pass to leave your local refugee camp.
You'll probably end up in a refugee camp, but it'll have free Wi-Fi.
So please, Help us reach our goal of $1.6 trillion so we can make World War III a reality. Why? Because Obama.
Because Obama.
In every age, a technology is created that upends the foundations of society. The wheel, the printing press, the internet. Now, in a world sliding into financial chaos, a new technology is changing the way monetary systems work around the world. It is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a new form of money, controlled not by banks, governments, or corporations, but through mutual commerce between free individuals. To learn more, visit weusecoins.com.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.
Cursed to see the murder, freedom with no signs of remorse. Are we cursed to see the murder, freedom with no signs of remorse?
Welcome back to the Big Plantation, everybody. And we were getting into some questions about Christianity and the state pulling the Christian out of Christianity. And we were going to get into that a little bit more with a little thing that I was working on. I was asked earlier in the week to, give a little bit of history on Christmas, and we got into it a little bit last week. But, the question is Jesus the reason for the season? What do you guys think?
Well, I personally already know, but for the listener to understand the history of the winter solstice, even going back to Constantine and the foundations then of what we call Christmas, and if we wanted to put and lay what you're going to show against what's in the Bible, you could just completely dismiss the idea that Jesus was born in December. You could completely blow it out of the water. But please enlighten everybody to what the true roots of what we call Christmas is.
And it's a really difficult question because, Jesus is not the reason for the season anymore. The more and more you look at what Christmas is, and I honestly think that Christmas, especially with what we were just talking about, I feel like I had a revelation of they may be commercializing, everybody's favorite commercialized pagan holiday is Christmas. And I think they're doing it for the factor of pulling Christianity out of the Christmas spirit. But for a breakdown, let's go to what are some of the main pieces in Christmas. Like you asked me last week and I didn't have a good answer for you on the Christmas tree, for example. This is obviously the most esteemed symbol of the holiday season is the big Tannenbaum, the holy Yeshua tree. And if you've never heard of the holy Yeshua tree, that's probably good because that means you're paying attention and you have a pulse. But obviously, I'm referring to the Christmas tree. It's the most iconic item of the Christmas season. The modern Christmas tree that we have taken has been from. There's a dramatic Druidic tribe that was the first, the ones to use the modern day evergreen inside of the households. But that's not where it started because they took that idea and the concept from the Romans who used a fir tree, and the Romans took it from the Babylonians, and the Babylonians took this all the way back to like 2800 BC was the first usage of it they saw in Egypt, and the Bible even references the use of Christmas trees. It was a palm tree was the first thing that was used, and it says it in Jeremiah 10:2-5. Thus says the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, for the customs of the people are in vain. For one cuts a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it not move. They are upright as the palm tree, but not speak. They must needs be born because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, and neither also is it in them to do good. So right there, they're saying that the Christmas tree and the symbolism of the Christmas tree is heathen or a pagan tradition. Paganism for everybody is just a very broad spectrum word for anything that is predating Christianity for the most part. It's just a really simple. It's the most simplified way of them putting it.
I wanted to just add something to that, Jamie, because that was awesome right there. If you look at what they did right there. Because what you did was actually read it and see what they were saying. Now you can see how it was taken out of context in order to trick people, right? You can see how they left out certain parts when making the argument to have the tree in the home for Christmas. And this was done by Constantine at the time, when the common understanding of the church was established, which is really a combination of things. But, that's what we're going through here anyway. So wouldn't it be safe to say then that the other things that they've used over and over again, they took out of context again? And what I'm referencing here is on 9/11, right afterwards, John Edwards, who then later ran as vice president underneath John Kerry, John Edwards stood before the Senate and read a very prolific and prophetic section of the Bible. He read Isaiah 9:11, and he said, it's almost chilling that we would read Isaiah 9:11, and he read it. And what it said was, we will rebuild. We will rebuild bigger. He was not alone. Research the sycamore, if anybody's interested in this. But research it, because he wasn't the only one to do this. And the fact of the matter is, by reading that aloud was a confirmation of a prophecy. If you had read Isaiah 9:10, you would realize basically this. Israel was destroyed or attacked or something happened, and it was God's anger towards them. Again, this is Old Testament. So God's a very angry God in Old Testament. And then this is the quote, it basically says, and then God was so angry when, instead of realizing it was a warning, Israel spoke in defiance and said, and then they quote 9/11. How in the hell could that be? How could you actually go and pull a piece of prophecy that leads to the destruction of Israel and quote it as if it's empowering? We will rebuild. They took it completely out of context. This is the trick that they do constantly. It's almost as if they are purposely fulfilling prophecy for the negative. Literally taking shit out of context. But continue, Jamie, with that, because that's an awesome example of that. And going back to what you said in the last segment or 2 segments ago, which is give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. The true meaning of that is Caesar gets nothing, because God made everything. So therefore, Caesar, give him his piece of metal that means nothing. He wasn't saying to them, pay your taxes. He was saying, get out of here with your Caesar shit.
And I just want to clarify that, because some people might not understand where you're coming from when you say that. You know what I mean? And it's something that really made me, that was a big awakening for me. Not that I'm a Christian, but it made me realize some of the nature of what Christianity is really all about when I came to this realization that Jesus and his message is completely anti-state. It really is. And basically you have to understand the context of what was going on in that and Jesus' role in things according to the Bible. So,
and then what his message then becomes is a multi-layered metaphor, because what he's telling you is that we can't win like this.
What was going on was where he was at the time was an occupied land. It was occupied by the Romans, and you could not speak freely. You would go to jail. You would get crucified. You were not allowed to speak freely. So that's a restriction in and of itself. But then when you consider that Jesus, whether you believe that the prophecies are true or not, he was adhering his life as if he had to adhere to the prophecies. Whether you believe it's real or not, it doesn't matter. This guy tried to do this. He tried to live his life to fulfill these prophecies that he thought that he was there to fulfill. So that means he couldn't say what he wants. He didn't have the luxury of going to jail or being killed prior to that being fulfilled. You know what I mean? So he had to answer in a way that both was in line with his principles and fulfilled the prophecies. Yeah.
It was a clever move, because he knew
it was called rhetorical misdirection, and it's something that you see Ron Paul use a lot in the debates.
Go ahead, Jamie, though. Please continue, because it's really interesting shit.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and you guys are talking about it's probably the most essential time in history to find a lot of information out, because I mean that's where the modern, getting back to what we were talking about, the modern day Christmas, where it came from. It was sprouted out of the Roman Empire. I mean, the first the church argues this. They say that it was sometime in the 2nd century. I've never found any verification that this was true, but the first documentation that I found was 324 AD was the first time that they mentioned Christmas as a holiday as itself. 324 years after the death of Jesus, we're talking about a new holiday that was sprouted from his birth and whatnot. But
and who did you find was the one to usher that in?
Well, the person who ushered it in, I believe, was I know who officially made it a holiday, because Emperor Justinian was the first one to make it an official holiday, but he was not the first one to celebrate it, and that wasn't until the 5th century AD. So this was 200 years after.
300 years prior to that is complete documented of a cleansing of anybody who were following this new cult.
You're absolutely right.
See, I would have thought it was the CEO of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. every single disciple, direct follower of Jesus, went out to spread that message. They all died. And then the story of John, I have a conspiracy theory within this right here, right? Which is that John, the disciple, the beloved disciple, the book of John, is the same author as Revelation. And the reason is because that's John of Patmos. And the story goes that they could not kill John. They tried in multiple different ways to kill him, and instead they sent him out into the wilderness or whatever. And then, poof, you have John of Patmos tell the book of Revelation. That's just a side note. You can fact check it. I don't know. But keep going, though.
But yeah, so right now, what we're celebrating, currently what would be celebrated in Rome, had this been 2,000 years ago, or it's the Saturnula. It's, modern English, you would call it the Saturnals. It's the holiday before Christmas, but it wasn't called Christmas either. It's from the 17th to 24th of the Saturnals. It was a reference being the fire god. Now, there are so many different names throughout history, but it gets kind of interesting because they all do somewhat tie into one another, like when you talk about Babylonian mythology and Greek mythology. Now, it was the death of their sun god, which was also the fire god, which also happened to be the king of gods. Now, his name was Nimrod in the Babylonian worship, and the symbolism of the evergreen tree was a dead stump that an evergreen tree had sprouted from, and they called it the Tammuz, and it actually literally means like fire in the sky or whatever. But the concept of the god of gods would be Kronos, which is referenced in Greek mythology, the guy who ate his children. And you see what actually happened during this time period in Babylon. The holiday was called the Natalis Solis Invictus. Now, that's the modern day pagan holiday of Christmas. It's the 25th of December. It's what was in there thousands of years before Jesus, before Christianity. It was widely celebrated, moved from Egypt to Babylon to Rome to Germany. It's just all over the place. But it's just saying that the sun raises 6 inches on that day. Now, it's the death of the sun because the 3 days prior, it just sets steady in the sky, and then on the 25th, it raises slightly. And it's saying that it's the rebirth.
Relevance, Jamie, of the winter solstice, the 21st?
What's the relevance of the winter solstice? Well,
right.
Something you have to understand about the solstices is they're honestly just seasons. It's just the marker for seasons. It actually ties into another thing that I was going to get to in a little bit about it. It's the Yuletide, and I'm sure you guys have both heard, the Yuletide gatherings and whatnot. It's the time around Christmas, right?
Right, and there was no refrigeration back then, so you would probably feast on everything you had.
You're absolutely right. There was a giant feast on the 24th day. It was the last day. There were holly wreaths were given. It's another tradition throughout the holly branches, the holly wreaths and whatnot. During the Saturnals, they were exchanged as tokens of friendship between Romans.
Absolutely. So what you can see then is this rooted paganism, and again, we're referencing ancient religions then, a continuation of it. Now, I want to lay this against, real quick, what Alex Jones uncovered in 2000, which was that once a year, out in California, the high-up representatives of the control system, whether that be the high-up bank representatives, the politicians, even actors, they meet together and they worship a giant owl. And you'd be like, oh, all right, whatever. They're cutting loose. No, I can't even say that. All right, oh, whatever. They worship Moloch.
It's really funny that you say that name, actually, because that is another name for the god Nimrod in different cultures, was Moloch and Baal, which is also a reference for Satan in a lot of cultures. Right, and
what is Baal again?
Baal?
What does he look like?
What does he look like? He looks like an evil horned devil.
Right, but he was a calf. He was a golden calf. And the golden calf is currently present on Wall Street, the hub of our economy. The golden calf is right there. Now, is there any relevance to the golden... What does the golden calf represent? Why is it in the middle of our commerce?
The way that I see the golden calf is because... You ever heard the expression, the fat cow? The saying that somebody has a lot of money. It has always been the false idol. Money has always been the false idol throughout centuries, and all the way dating back to biblical times when Moses came forward and told everybody to kill themselves for worshiping the golden calf. It's
where was the planet in alignment with the rest of the constellations at that point?
Well, you are absolutely right. That was the time of Taurus. It was the era of Taurus, which was also a representation of the bull, which was... It is argued that was the point in time of getting rid of the old prophet and bringing in the new prophet, which would be Pisces. And Pisces is the representation of Jesus Christ, the fish. And then we're moving into the next era shortly, which will be the Age of Aquarius. And the Age of Aquarius it's actually references in the Bible, the... follow the man with the carrying
the water pitcher, I think.
Water pitcher on his shoulder or something. He will lead you through the door or whatever.
Right. But, and how about Jonah?
So wait. I have kind of a question because I have a 2 plus 2 that I just put together. Is there any prophecies that kind of give you an idea of what kind of period the age of Aquarius will be, and do those prophecies line up with it being the prophecy of the Antichrist?
Yeah, they do. I mean, the idea behind the Age of Aquarius is that it is the age of evil. It's the thousands of years of evil that we're slowly moving into that's going to be filled with corruption and death and torture, and it's supposed to essentially be the end of time is the way that it was looked at. I know Hopis see it this way. Their religion essentially moves. There's a path that we choose, and the wrong path is the path to destitution, and there's a lot of other cultures in the world that believe that as well.
There's
Mayan
also
culture be one.
There's a Jesus quote where he's asked again, how will we know? Well, one of these signs. And there's a lot of great signs that you can now see happening, but the one specific that I wanted to see what you can lay with your knowledge against, the moon in Pisces when Jonah enters the whale. When you consider what Jonah in the old, laying it against the old ways, which is through the stars. Again, it's referenced over and over again. There is secret knowledges that are kept, multiple knowledge, that are kept away from the majority of people. Just hearing everything you're saying from 4,000 years ago, it seems to me that the people living at that time had a way more better understanding of what was going on in the sky above them. They were following it constantly. They were way more in tune with what was happening all around them.
Yeah, astrology is pretty much the whole sense of ancient religion, of predating Christianity and monotheism. It was all about astrology. It was about star signs. It was about comets, coming by
Right.
and knowing when they were going to return, those kind of things.
Right. And now, wouldn't it stand to reason now that when we study these secret societies who are hell-bent on what it appears to be just creating pain and suffering in a majority of people while a small fraction flourish, and having a kingdom wrap around this and have it just engulf the entire planet, when their MO, their own self-proclaimed thing is to keep the ancient secrets secret, and only the club gets to know them, wouldn't it stand to reason that of those secrets are all these ancient practices that have been universally true since records were kept?
Yeah, and I mean, the Bible references that at the end time they're going to return to that, to the system of the Egyptians and what they were doing and the rituals that they were performing. The society would become the same way.
Egyptians, because the Egyptians are, you can't really go any further. You got the Sumerian culture, as a pinpoint, and I mean, some people can argue this, but it's pretty much the consensus that they were the first one to appear with written documents or keep records and then have schools and, irrigate and try to have their knowledge and then keep it so that the next generation could build off of it. And that's how a society forms. I mean, this is really what separates you then from the monkey banging two rocks together. So, but the thing about Egyptians is that we're not exactly sure we know that those pyramids predated, Cleopatra, who was a Jesus contemporary because she died in 36 AD, and our current timekeep is based on Jesus. That's how we keep time right now. So knowing that, Cleopatra lives way closer to us in time than when the pyramids were built. So therefore, the pyramids were as old to Cleopatra as Cleopatra is to us.
Yes.
So their ancient magic and secrets, they had no idea what those pyramids were for at that point.
No, they didn't. And I honestly believe wholeheartedly that that's the full motivation behind most secret societies is the passing of ancient knowledge that is supposed to go only to the hands of the privileged. And it seems to be that they tend to believe that too, because you keep catching them in all of these weird rituals at Bohemian Grove and things like that. No, you're absolutely right.
And the relevance of Bohemian Grove. Now, when you see a culture that's popping up, the secular progressive, quote unquote, which whole thesis is you can't speak, you can't have an identity for yourself, but this one is okay for you. Now, when we really dig to what this culture that's being carved that's acceptable for you, when we dig at its roots, can we find this same ancient truths, or are they being kept from them still? Is this just a watered down reality for you while they keep praising false deities and believing that spilling blood on certain days at certain degrees and angles and building structures that represent sacred geometry are going to give them power in war? They continue to believe these things. You don't know they're doing it. They continue to do it. They do it out in the open now because you're a walking zombie. And it only points to then that that's what they believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you see, and the evidence is, the evidence is in the stew itself, because what are they? They're in control, and they're doing these things. And they're pulling illusions over everybody's eyes. I mean, and I think that that's why this is so relevant to bring up Christmas, because it has nothing to do with Christianity anymore. It hasn't had anything to ever do with Christianity. It was created to get people involved into the church that were of other religions and to move them steadily into a new way of thinking rather than killing them all.
And now it's been scaled back. Now what it is we pull it out the opposite way in order to then persecute.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And it's the equivalent. And what happens here is you have Christianity, because quite literally, this argument will be made in the mainstream media, and you can't say it, but Heist is looking at the numbers. The majority of people in this country that's what their tradition is. This country was founded by Christians.
And, you know, the conversation that we're having, it kind of gives me a chicken or the egg kind of question of what is the goal of these people? You know what I mean? Is it really that prophecies just so happen to be coming true, or are these people using their secret knowledge to make them come true? And I guess we'll go out to break leaving that, but absolutely fascinating conversation. I'm pretty happy to be quiet about because I'm fascinated by it. But we'll be right back with one more break here live with the Big Plantation.
Do you have a group or organization founded on the principles of personal liberty, health freedom, or accountable government? We invite you to check out Same Side Entertainment. Same Side is a source for activists and liberty organizations to connect with well-known leaders in today's growing movement for sustainable living, personal liberty, and sovereignty issues. Same Side has a variety of keynote speakers, debate panels, interactive web presentations, musicians, and liberty-based entertainment, as well as services for web design, graphic design, video, and photography. Same Side can help customize your event by connecting you to the best of the liberty and political world while staying within your budget. Get connected with leaders in the liberty movement like Tom Woods, Kevin Gutzman, Jack Hunter, Robert Scott Bell, Bob Murphy, Michael Scheuer, John Bush, Jordan Page, Tatiana Moroz, and many more. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our website at www.samesideentertainment.com. Again, that's www.samesideentertainment.com. Same Side Entertainment, connecting you with the education and resources you need.
Obamacare. Fun. Cool. YOLO. At Obamacare, we believe in saying the words affordable health care so that young people will love us and sign up like lemmings. Sure, you pay 2.5% of your income in penalties, but young people don't have to worry about that because you don't have a job. Work sucks. That's why we at Obamacare want to trade your full-time job for a part-time one. So you'll have more time for fun things, like watching millionaire celebrities tweet about how affordable we are. Obamacare. Just like guys enjoy premium leather seats, so too you'll enjoy paying triple the healthcare premiums out of your new part-time salary. Speaking of guys, ever been on a mandate before? At Obamacare, we're full of mandates. But don't worry, big corporations get exempt, so you don't have to. It's fun paying for things you don't even use. Yeah, you work out, stay healthy. But come on, brah. Someone's got to pay for people who smoke, drink 85-ounce sodas, and live in a Barca lounger. So enjoy your premium hikes, young people of America, because everyone loves hikes. Obamacare. If millionaire celebrities can afford us, why can't you? A message from the White House Office of Obamacare. Propaganda to get young people to love us and sign up like lemmings.
Tired of living in a violent society? If every citizen was armed, no one would be dumb enough to shoot people. It's exactly the ethos our founding fathers had when they wrote the Constitution and then changed it, which is what makes it sacred now. Come mingle with safety-minded people like you at the Liberty City Gun Club. Our nation is still the world leader in one thing: armaments. Nothing says excitement like a night out with a small caliber semi-automatic weapon. Get social at the Liberty City Gun Club.
Well, yeah, it's getting tough out there. Yeah, no doubt. I work in home invasions, mostly. Some murder, occasional rape, if she's hot, or really bitchy. And I'm a huge advocate of gun control, absolutely. Every time I kick in a door or smash a window, I face the possibility of being shot and killed. Allowing citizens to own guns creates a hostile work environment for me and my associates. No one should have to work under those conditions. I say make them all illegal. Absolutely. I mean, I break the law for a living. I'm a professional, so it doesn't really bother me. No doubt.
Your local violent criminals work hard and put their lives on the line every time they attempt to murder, rape, abduct, or assault a member of the citizenry. They desperately need your help. With your support, there may finally come a day when a violent criminal can have his way with you or someone you love without the fear, anxiety, and stress caused by knowing there's a possibility his victim might be armed. Please show your support by voting for stronger anti-gun legislation, because criminals prefer unarmed citizens.
In 1997, a high school shooting was stopped by a vice principal with a gun. In 1998, a middle school shooting was ended by a neighbor with a gun. In 2002, a terrorist attack was stopped by a school guard and a teacher with a gun. After September 11th, pilots began carrying guns to protect their passengers. Let's give our schools and teachers the same option. Sign the petition at defendschools.com.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.
We are back for our final segment here on another Sunday edition of The Big Plantation. And just one more time as a reminder, we want to let you guys know about our shirts. You know, we spent some time on the designs. We're pretty excited about them. You can find out more about them if you want to pick them up and support us at facebook.com/thebigplantation or Twitter, The Big Plantation. And we're going to be adding more social media sites to our repertoire here as soon as we move away from Facebook, now that they have strangled out our page's ability to be effective without giving them a whole lot of money every month. So I know everyone's feeling the pain for that. So I'm calling for everybody to exodus off of Facebook, drop their stock prices, and maybe they'll get the picture on how destructive that has been after that. But we're going to be switching gears here soon. You know, I want to get into, with all of you guys here, kind of like a year in review. Because I don't know about you guys, but this has been just an absolutely huge year for me, and just a year of a lot of personal growth for me, I feel. And I just had a lot happen this year. I mean, and I want to take time to, you know, reflect on some of that stuff with you guys and hear your guys' experience from this past year. I mean, what sticks out for you guys that has happened this year?
Nothing much.
Nothing much.
It's been a no more sleep year. This is the year of no more sleep. And big ideas. And just building off of those. That's pretty much been it for me. I think it was more a year for building.
Definitely. I mean, I made a post on my Facebook about this, and I mean, for me, it's just in this year, I mean, I didn't really kind of get the grasp of it until I wrote it down and then like looked at it, and I was like, man, holy shit, this was a wild year. You know what I mean? I went to jail for my beliefs for the first time. I interviewed Ron Paul within this year. Me and you, we threw a concert with rappers that I literally grew up, you know, as a young teenager, like idolizing and examining and studying and learning from. And I bought my car that I've wanted for like 7 years. I've interviewed people whose work I've followed, you know, much like with the artists that we've interviewed. I've, like Richard Gage, that was like awesome for me. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for 9/11 Truth, I wouldn't even be here. You know what I mean? So like for me, that was nuts. You know what I mean? I've just had so much, and as a person that has affected me this year, and it just made me realize that, how much there is still to look forward to. You know, the nature of the news really can get you down sometimes, and it can make you put on some pretty tinted glasses towards the world. But you know, when you really just get out there and try and get out there and establish what your dreams are and establish what your motivations and your aspirations are, and you just get out there and do it, it's really a crazy journey, you know what I mean? And that's not to say it's been all good, you know? I mean, you guys know I'm going through some hardships right now. I mean, I was working 2 jobs. In the same week, I had my hours cut at one and laid off of the other. You know what I mean? I'm eating a lot of ramen these days.
I think that's a great point to be made right now, because you're hitting on something that everybody is going to feel. Okay, nobody is not going to feel this. This year was unprecedented in the level that Black Friday was exploited. I think we can agree that, right? Right
Record
now,
profits from them, they reported.
Our stock market has had the largest gains against what should be the largest inflation in world history. Somehow we are, what was it, since 94 we had the largest gains this year? We're at, like, I don't even know. I don't follow it because it's all make-believe anyway. But what we're really up against right now is January 1, in about a week and a half, everybody is going to change. Whether you realize it or not, anybody who just dealt with this layoff, because layoffs came massively the Monday following, Cyber Monday, actually. Cyber Monday, everybody got a pink slip. It's very ironic, very almost fucking black. It's dark. But Black Friday this year was celebrated unlike ever before. Go out and spend, go out and spend. Best technology devices ever, and they're $500 now. Why is the Kindle Fire, the new version, $350, where I got one 2 years ago for $150? Why would it go up in price that much? And meanwhile, your economy is suffering like this. Supposedly, no, it's better. They've announced now that the Fed will be scaling back QE Unlimited. This is what they say, right? That's a sign of everything going great. And January 1, we're going to usher in the new health system. But I have a surprise for a lot of people who are going to be waiting for their layoff to end. You're not going to come back with the same hours. They may not have said it to you yet. But if you were laid off, it's because you're a part-time employee who probably works 60-hour work weeks. How does that work? They put you on layoff for the end of the year, and then they'll bring you back, and you're through a temp agency. You're not really an employee. There's so many people in this country who were forced onto these work programs like CareerLink and whatnot, and then wound up with one of these socialistic havens for workforce. Okay? Now they're going to be dependent on a system that is going to be trying to survive by not having to give out the benefits that are now mandated for full-time employees. So you're going to stay within your temp system. And you're going to lose hours because they cannot give you full-time work week hours and not provide you with benefits. This is going to need, then, a full-on socialist move to save the third world nation that's about to pop up overnight in this country. It already happened. There is so many homeless people. There are tent cities within real cities right now. They're rounding up homeless in some cities through ordinances passing.
And that's not Occupy. That's like, that's just 10 cities. Just wanted to, yeah.
No, real tent cities. They really are. And, this is Christmas time, right? You're supposed to be thinking of the poor. You're supposed to be worried about them. You're not supposed to be worried about consuming. And I don't know if people realize they're poor or not. Because the middle class is gone. With one swoop, January 1st, there will be no middle class. It already is gone. It's dissipated. But you will not be able to even live paycheck to paycheck in a lot of circumstances anymore. And inflation is about to be runaway. In my opinion, they can't artificially keep it low anymore. Any ideas?
As far as what? What's going to happen here economically?
I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I was hoping you were going to jump in with your heist type, hey, well, you kind of disagree. And here's why. I was hoping. But
well, I mean, economically, the trends, I don't see any way that the trends can get better. But there is hope because look at what's going on. Did you know that Overstock.com, the sister site of Amazon, the biggest retailer in the friggin' country, is going to be accepting Bitcoins? Did you know that?
Yeah.
That's friggin' nuts. That's nuts, okay? That is a free market response to what is going on economically because these CEOs of these companies, yeah, a lot of them are fascistic, but they also have an incentive to look out for their own interests, and their constituents are going to be consumers, and if those consumers are being made poor, then they're going to stop raking in record profits. So there's a reason for these people to embrace Bitcoin. So I think that Bitcoin is going to continue on these trends. Now, I think there's a big misconception. People try to say, "Oh, well, look at the instability, blah blah blah," and I think it's really short-sighted to say, "Oh, well, because of this current instability and the rise and fall of the dollar trading value of Bitcoin, that makes it not viable." And for two reasons. One, I asked those people, all right, if you can say that, and you can say with such certainty that makes Bitcoin not viable, I would like for you to pull the data for me for when the dollar was introduced. Was it just one day we didn't have a dollar, and then the next day, boom, its dollars are universally acceptable? No, there's going to be instability as the base of people and businesses accepting and trading it continues to expand. And the dollar never had the force of violence used against it the way that any other currency does. That instability is based solely on the monopolistic violence that government has on currencies, because they just shut it down in China. They shut down the Silk Road. They shut down. They are actively moving against it. So,
here's my concern with Bitcoin. All right, I'm gonna put this out there. You can feel free to eat this up. All right, I don't know how I feel about it. I've said this to you 100 times. I would love to talk to Dr. Paul about it. Really,
he's
honestly.
skeptical.
He's the only one I would trust on this. But this is my concern. Okay, we see a pattern here, right? What they're purposely doing shit across the board, right? Bitcoin's rise and certain to continue to rise with a free market that is manipulated. There is bubbles created. Okay, we watch the mortgage crisis. We have been told over and over by Dr. Paul that there's a money bubble coming. Wouldn't it stand to reason that they would in place a safety net, or no, fuck that, not a safety net, a planned turnover? And what if you were looking right at it and rallying behind it because it looked like it was free market capitalism?
Well, see, this is one of those things where, okay, if you want to use logic and philosophy, yeah, it's in the realm of possibility, but then I would ask for you to generate proof. I mean, the fact that they're shutting down the Silk Road, the fact that they're banning it here or there, I think that kind of goes against it, and I think that there's nothing that they can do to stop it other than buying and hoarding it. You know what I mean? Like that, I really don't see anything else. I mean, if they were to buy all 21...
My fear isn't that, Heiss. My fear is that this is planted. Okay, my fear is that this is orchestrated.
But then you have to point out the negativity. I think this is one of those things where it's this giving godlike status to the elite class. And
why hasn't Bitcoin been destroyed yet?
Because it can't be. It's too.
Why didn't they tax it the shit out of it?
How can they tax it?
And how do they tax everything? Right? All they have to do is make the argument that it's going to hurt our economy, and people will just go, okay, and they would have crippled it.
But that doesn't mean anything. They made the argument that gun control needs to happen. How does it get done? It can't be without engaging gun owners. It's the same kind of thing. It's not viable. Like, it's not a viable plan.
Right. Well, they tax gold.
Okay, and gold has been in control by the central bankers for a long time.
And gold has been money since the dawn of time.
In fact, Ron Paul said in the documentary Freedom to Fascism that the Fed sees the gold as collateral for the dollars that they print. So gold is gone. Gold is gone. It is the fallback. If we went to a gold standard, it was going to be under control of the same people who control the Fed. That's the unfortunate truth. If you can get some, I'm not saying don't get it, but if you can get some, great. Do it. It's a great store of wealth, and it's been proven to always be money. But the fact is that there's incentives to not do it. And as we learned from G. Edward Griffin, it's going to be there's going to be probably a huge rise in the price here soon, because I saw that apparently the price is so low now that it's costing more to mine gold than it is to buy gold.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
And what I mean by G. Edward Griffin, we know why, because of the derivatives in gold. You can't get derivatives in Bitcoin. It's too organic. There's no Bitcoin certificates. There's no Bitcoin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But we asked G. Edward Griffin, right? Wouldn't it stand to reason that we are looking at fraud because silver should theoretically be equal in value to gold? So you're looking at a long-term hoax. And he himself said that's very interesting that, yeah, silver has way more applications. In fact, they don't use gold anymore for the things that they used to use it for, because it's not practical financially because of how much gold is worth. That is such a paradox that my head can explode.
But that's my point. The fact that there is fraud, that they're able to manipulate it on such a level means it's gone. It's gone. They have control. Bitcoin is in our hands.
Right. Well, I hope. But what if, this is just giving you a completely, just looking at what you've seen in the controls being clamped down left and right, it's basically locks being put on each leg and each arm of the free people until the free people don't exist. The source of their power has always been money, okay? You cannot deny this debt level. It's out of control.
But that's dollars. That's dollars.
Well, yes,
that's what I'm
the
saying.
dollars.
So
why
are they having Senate hearings on Bitcoin? Why are they shutting it down? Why are they shutting down Bitcoin? Why are they stealing people's wallets when they can? Why is China not accepting? There is a move to stifle it. Clearly, that's
right.
unarguable.
But they haven't stopped it.
They can't stop it. That's like saying, how do you do gun control?
Right, but they have done gun control by getting rid of the ammunition and making it so taboo that you're going to accept it. They have done
So what you're saying is that they will play damage control, but that doesn't mean that they are the makers of it. That's not, they made guns so that they can implement gun control. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
I'm worried that could be a possibility, Mike, because if you look at what's happening socially, every single person no longer has contact with people. Okay, getting somebody even to listen to our show is a tough task. People don't want that. Instead, they want instant gratification through their hand, and they're staring at a Facebook posting of somebody who took a picture of their fucking cat making a goofy face. Now, this is the tail of the tape society-wise, right? Everything's technology. Cyber Monday. Make sure you buy online. Let's pull you completely away from this world that you're interacting into a world that exists where you can't see it in the real world. It's only if you're looking into a fucking piece of technology. Now, I'll tell you one thing. It is impossible to have complete control in this reality that we exist in. But it is very easy to watch everything somebody does online. It's a giant web. It's a giant trap. So when you have a currency that is based 100% on this imaginary world that's been constructed, I argue that it could be a big plantation that they constructed. This internet could be, even though we're able to share ideas freely now, if you are 100% then reliant upon the internet and they could turn it off, what happens to you? Now,
all right, hang on. I want to make sure I got this straight because we only have like 8 minutes left. Okay. But so, all right, you're saying that because Bitcoin is digital, that gives them a method of control into looking into our finances like ever before. And I counter that by saying they could not stop the Silk Road because it was completely anonymous. The way that they stopped the Silk Road was not by hacking it. It was not by keeping tabs on it. They got lucky that this dude who made it made some forum post exposing himself before he did it. That's how they got him.
Now, can you imagine for a second? Now,
billions of dollars went through there. Billions. Mostly in drugs.
All right, so I'm going to give you a hypothetical. 6 months from now, runaway inflation hits. Let's say there's a disturbance between China, Russia, and us. And lines start dividing up, and woof, wouldn't you know it, the instability looks to Saudis and everybody in the Middle East like, you know what, we cannot maintain this American reserve currency anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Now, theoretically, the
sounds like a big incentive to move into Bitcoin
for all of this debt, right? And knowing that they're no longer going to be able to buy and trade with this dollar anymore, they know that it costs more to print than it's worth. Runaway inflation takes over. The only thing that they could logically try to do then is say, now we move into the new system. We must now buy and sell through this system because our dollar has collapsed. And this system is 100% universal because it's through the internet. And now everybody...
I know where you're going with this. All right, so then we would have to move into a one-world currency like Bitcoin in order to make up for the loss in the dollar. But what I'm saying is that
Bitcoin could be the only one-world currency. It's the only way to have a one-world currency. You couldn't have a paper dollar.
That presupposes that they have control of it. A one-world currency isn't necessarily a bad thing if All right, let's not say a one world currency because I don't think that Bitcoin is supposed to be a monopoly. All right, we can still trade in whatever else we choose to trade in, whether it be hours, whether it be gold and silver, whatever. We can still do that. Or Bitcoin is an alternative. Now, I don't think money is bad. I don't think user friendliness and ability to access money is bad. What is bad is centralized control over it and being used for coercive ends. Bitcoin is made by people, not by governments, not by banks.
I argue that money initially was made by people, and then money made banks, and then banks destroyed dollar to usher in.
But the bank,
Bitcoin.
yeah, but that's all the same class of people. So I would say there has to be a shred of proof that this is we can track this back to people. There are Bitcoin miners where the Bitcoins have to trickle through them and be bought from them by people. So yeah, Bitcoin starts out in the hands of a minority. But
for now,
For
now, arguably, what if they tried to make it the state would take over that? The Federal Reserve would now liquidate them and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you would have to then read some history and understand what Russia did to all of the independent enterprises during the Cold War in their own country. You would need to understand how they went about putting in their
enterprises didn't have encryption. Enterprises didn't have defense. It was the state walked in and said, by the way, you're socialist now. Like that you can't do that now. Like with digital currencies.
You would hope, but they're capable.
They couldn't get the guy with the biggest Bitcoin wallet on the whole thing, and they couldn't stop the underground drug market that was moving billions of dollars in drugs right in front of their face.
For Bitcoin?
Yeah, dude, the Silk Road had like $3 or $4 billion move through it in drugs, and they used the goddamn mail system to do it.
How did they shut it down?
They shut it down because they tracked the guy who created it. He, in some forum posts before he started the Silk Road, laid out what he was doing on these forums. That's how. So they found him through that, and then raided him. He had the servers that was uploaded to Silk Road.
Hi. With no government intervention, Bitcoin created a black market and made it easy to buy and sell drugs long distance. That sounds like a perfect argument for some regulation. And we know what regulation leads to. Liquidation.
But that ship has sailed. They haven't been able to do it. They didn't make the argument. They can't get into the guy's wallet. They're doing Senate hearings and saying, oh, well, Ben Bernanke, Bitcoin, I think, holds long-term promise.
Yeah, they are making the argument to keep it around. And that's why I'm very, very confused about Bitcoin.
Well, I like I said, I think that the burden of proof is to prove that. I mean, yeah, sure, these are theoreticals, and they could be possible. They could be possible, just like the reptilian thing might be possible. It could be. It sounds ridiculous, but it could be. You know what I mean? If we're gonna be straight in our philosophic thinking, then we have to be open to, yeah, it is possible. I don't see how. I don't see anything to suggest that, though.
If we had a time machine and could travel back in time 5 years ago, we would have never, ever believed that Sandy Hook could have been passed off as real. If we were shown that, you ever see that CNN footage when they broke the script during the Gulf War? It looks laughable now. The momentum keeps you moving forward. This country is unrecognizable from a year ago. Where will we be next year, I think, is a good question to ask as we come up on the new year. What is it going to be a year from now?
We're going to be homeless and starving.
I would say that's up for us. That's up to us, and that is why we have the liberty movement. That is why, because there has to be a hedge against this, and we are that hedge. So if we stop with well, you're an anarchist, well, you're a Christian, well, you're a gay fag, you know what I mean? Like, all right, no, stop all that. We have a lot in common. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot in common. We have a lot of work to do to be doing all this friggin' finger pointing. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot bigger fish to fry.
I'm with you, bro. Jamie, let's do this.
Oh, I'm with you guys.
Fish, and we're frying them. No, you're absolutely right.
We decide the future. We are the ones who are destroying the mainstream media, as signaled by the destruction, the routing of CNN. We are the ones.
The dinosaur media.
It's true, though. I mean, it's funny, but it's true, So there's a lot to look forward to, and I think I put it poetically in a Facebook post that I made earlier, is that the beautiful thing about struggle is that it's just the dark pictures on the canvas of life, and that's the way I see it. We need to not get caught up in the negative and keep moving forward and be undeterred, like I am by eating ramen every day and still doing all this stuff. So.
If I had never seen a crooked line, I wouldn't know how to call a straight line when I saw it.
But that is our show, folks. We'll be back next week. The last thing I want to say to you, I'll quote Immortal Technique: hold the person close, hold the person that you love close if you're next to them. You're never alone. You're not alone. We'll be back next week. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, folks.
Thanks for listening to FPRN. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. If you'd like to start your own show with FPRN, advertise with us, or donate to the network or to your favorite shows, check out our website at www.fprnradio.com.